The pride, passion, and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Feinbaum Show, Hour 3 podcast.
Well, we welcome you back, and it's nice to see people in our studio. Matt Stinchcomb joining us. Matt, been a while.
It's been a while. That's an understatement. It's going on 2 years, I want to say.
Yeah, no, I was just talking to you about getting out and doing games again, and it was no secret that you were doing games last year from your utility closet. Yeah. But now that we're hopefully back to a semblance of normalcy, I mean, how challenging was that to try to broadcast a game a couple of hundred miles away and not really know what was going on half the time?
Right. It's challenging enough to know what's going on anyway, right? It's not like these coaches are handing over their playbooks. It was tough. There's no doubt about it. And I think we made the best of what was otherwise a really challenging situation, but you felt like you were calling a game from a submarine. You're just looking through a periscope, and you had such a limited view because oftentimes so many different inputs and variables go into a football game. So you're looking at maybe a personnel grouping that's gathering on the sideline, and will they go for it or will they not? And is the punt team assembling? All those things kind of tip off. You can't see that when all you can see is the same stuff that everybody at home is seeing, and maybe that's a tight shot of a quarterback after an incompletion. That's not usually where your eyes would be otherwise, so it makes it challenging.
And it's okay if the game is a blowout, but you had one game in particular, probably more than one, that had an epic ending.
Oh, well, yeah. When you think about it, we had a lot of tight games. One of the more controversial was the Arkansas-Auburn game at the very end, right? And you're sitting there going, everybody's saying, what is that? That's a backwards pass. He's going to spike the ball, but that's a backwards pass. And McElroy's blowing up my phone. Hey, that looks like a backwards pass. And he knew about it because in high school he fell victim to the same type of mistake. But you can't, it was difficult to see that initially from the looks that we had. And so, it's easier when you're in venue, although a play like that might even be challenging depending on where the press box is. But it'll be good to be back in venue to where you can feel the environment and understand what's going on a little bit better. And hopefully we're going to be able to do that throughout the season.
Yeah, speaking of that game, there's probably about 1 million people in Arkansas right now who still don't understand how that game ended the way it did.
Yeah, and I would share in their confusion. It looked very clearly to be a backwards pass, but then it became an issue of the clear and immediate recovery. The ball at one point bounced off the foot of the official, it looked like, and so it got very muddy very quickly. But it did initiate with what should have been a live ball where he fumbled the football or threw the ball backwards. Should have been a live ball. But the official came in, it was blown dead as if it were a spike ball, an incomplete pass, stop the clock. So you get these and these are the things these coaches practice. And incidentally, last year, because of the abbreviated prep time, you have to wonder how much situational football these coaches were able to even go through. So the players, some of them, especially from Arkansas, tried to recover the football. Some of the Auburn players recognized that maybe it was still live. But it was chaos wrapped in pandemonium for sure.
True. Matt Stinchcomb joining us. Matt, this type of the year, we're 3 weeks out there. It seems like the same questions come up. We've seen the polls today. I don't think any of this is really very surprising, but as someone who looks a little bit deeper sometimes, as we get ready for the season, what are some of the things that you are really honing in on? What are you really curious about?
Well, more than anything else, the new faces in the conference, right? Because it seems like the top end of the conference is established, and maybe they're right. Last year the race in the East was thought to be tighter between Georgia and Florida, and it played out exactly the way a lot of people anticipated. It does seem as if Georgia should be separate and apart, probably in the East Division. The West Division, it's kind of a pig and a poke with Alabama once again, where you're going, I guess they're going to still be good.
Right.
But everything should point, when you look at what they have returning or what they don't have returning, and then what they have that's different as far as key positions on that coaching staff. We're not talking about a new tight ends coach. We're talking about a new offensive line coach, a new offensive coordinator. These guys that are coming in.
But their wives were roommates in college.
Well, that's helpful. And I'm sure they'll have input in strategy and scheme. So maybe there'll be overlap there. It really is. There's some familiarity there. I find that to be surprising, actually. I'm actually surprised that if we're ignoring the past, which we should, because college football is guaranteed turnover, you cannot retain that roster. It's not going to be the same this year as it was last year, even with super seniors in the age of COVID, that somehow Alabama still sits atop the poll among the coaches, which, as we know, I'm not sure these coaches are going blind scrutinizing where they're putting their votes, but it is interesting that they're still number one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if the media poll does that, but you expect coaches to maybe understand the predicament. But I wonder, though, and here we are. We've been in the age of Saban for some time, but we're now at DEFCON 1 level where it's just automatic. As an analyst, you still have to look at what you think you're seeing and what you know. How do you wash away the fact that it's Nick Saban that you're trying to analyze?
Yeah, well, I mean, if history is our teacher, if anybody's earned more than a few foul balls, it's Alabama. I mean, you think outside of Ohio State, they don't even have to win the division to make it to the playoffs. Those are the only two programs that have been able to pull that off. Alabama's done it a couple of times, even harkening back to the BCS era, maybe even ushered in the age of college football playoffs. So they've definitely earned the benefit of the doubt. However, and coaches will say this, and only because it's true, that was last year, and that was last year's team. So when you look at it from an objective perspective, who should be the number one team in the country? You could easily point to who is sitting at number 5 right now and say, really, when you look at what's coming back and when you look at the proximity of what they have based on how they played last year, how do you not have Georgia up there? Well, it's because Georgia lost in 17 in the national title to who? To Alabama. Right. And then they lost to who in the SEC championship in 18? Alabama. But that was 4 and 5 years ago now. So it's interesting that still can bias the way we perceive these teams today, and they're different teams.
But we're selective. I was just interviewing somebody about his coaches list and talking about Mike Leach. Why was he number 12? He said, well, look what he's done at Texas Tech. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with what he's doing now, but I think we decide to use whatever we decide to use in making our analysis. Oh,
well, there's no doubt. We take shortcuts, right? Otherwise, to run everything to the ground objectively, gosh, that takes a lot of time, right? Can't I just look at what happened last year and be like, this guy was good last year, or this guy was terrible last year, and he's the exact same person with the same exact output this year, and so now I can move on to whatever the new variables are. And so to me, these polls, we can say that they don't matter, and from a literal standpoint, they don't. But we all know that there is this predictive bias that I said this team was good to begin with. And so when they play each other in week 3 or 4, that's now a ranked win. And now that has some type of artifact in my awareness going forward as a voter, as even the selection committee members, where you're sitting there and you're looking back and, yeah, we thought that team was good at the beginning of the season. And maybe by the end of the year, they were just okay. Or maybe we just kind of overplayed it. But there's no doubt that polls like this have an influence. They have to. But that's the human input to this entire process. So it's always interesting. And Alabama's sitting at number 1 once again.
I remember a couple of years ago when Alabama played Florida State in the first game. It was 1-3 when Jimbo Fisher was still at Florida State. Alabama won. Florida State lost a quarterback. By the end of the year, they were hanging on to be number 1 to have a winning record. And a lot of people said Alabama doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs because they don't have a good win. I was like saying, I thought they beat the number 3 team in the country, but we just decided to throw that out.
Yeah.
Where in Alabama's case, they're now getting the benefit of the doubt. So bringing it back to Georgia, I don't think it really matters where they're ranked. They're playing the number 2 team in the country in the first game.
So true. Well, and that would be my argument now is that we're going to do this poll again after the first week, right? Why not put them at number 1? You're going to find out just how good they are right now in this snapshot because they're going to play what is thought to be, currently anyway, the number 2 team in the country. If anything else, it's great for TV. It's great to hype up the game, 1 versus 2 in week 1.
The game.
And so to put them at 5, to me, it's sitting there going, you're going to find out. You're not even being that speculative, really. It's, you know what, they should be good, and we'll find out in week 1. Let's put them at 1. Put them at 2. Put Clemson at 1.
So you're saying Georgia should be number 1, which brings me to this question. I've asked you this in the past, but I everywhere I keep getting asked, and I think it just comes part and parcel to where Kirby Smart is with this program. I'll say if you don't come out of the chair but I'm repeating a question I was asked yesterday. Is this a national championship or bust for Georgia?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I thought you would say that.
It has to happen this year.
I knew you would say that.
Of course you did. Yeah, I mean, because it's a rational, reasonable position to take. You really do have to wonder. And this is, you mentioned this is the age of Saban, which is what a fantastic way to phrase it. It is the Saban effect. There's no doubt about it. And you could even point to other coaches that have entered this conference, and maybe some of them had head coaching experience, others did not. And they either contended for or won a national title in year 2. And you look at what Kirby did, or ultimately, from this perspective anyway, what he did not in year 2. 16, not a great year. 17 was almost a magical season, to say the least. And we all know how that ended. But the idea that somehow or other, this is the bookend. This is it, man. So if you want more runway, you better figure out a way to come home with a natty, or we're pulling the plug. You fire somebody, you got to hire somebody. And how many times have we seen, and this is not even a defense, so I'm making an argument that I think is, on the face of it and the basis of it, irrational. So in some ways, it is challenging.
We do that every day.
But it's just, it doesn't make a ton of sense. It'd be one thing if they were headed in the wrong direction. That does not seem to be the case. And when you share a conference with the team, the coach and the program, where this is it, this is the Rosetta Stone of coaches, it's not always going to work out the way that you want. That doesn't mean that you've got the wrong guy.
So you are saying it's national championship or bust then, right?
I'm sorry. No. Was I not laying on the sarcasm thickly enough? We got boots on in here. We're wading through it.
It is amazing, though. And I mean, first of all, it's not like Georgia has, here I'm being cynical about Georgia, but it's not like they've won 15 national championships. I mean, they haven't won one.
It's 41 years. 41 years, okay. Yep. Keenly aware of that. That's seared into my frontal lobe. Yeah. I've been keeping score and running a tally. It's not as if somehow, I think it speaks back to what I was saying before. It'd be one thing if this program is somehow veering from, but it's not. If anything
they're
else,
number 5. I mean, they should be higher.
They should be in the preseason poll if we're going to do it. Hey, these polls, everybody says, these are just for fun. They don't matter. Let's have some fun with it then. And don't put them at 1, put them at 2. And if they beat Clemson, do they get to be number 1 then? If you're going to do a new poll every week.
I think they should be number 1 if they win that game.
Easily. And even with that then, they're sitting at 5. They beat Clemson.
But they can't be number 1 though.
Because Alabama
has to be number 1.
Exactly. And do we think are they going to struggle? What would Bama have to look like versus Miami for Georgia to go to number 1 in the second week's poll, having beaten Clemson, which makes total sense, by the way.
Miami's a traditional program.
As we know. Boy, there's teams out there, the Notre Dames and Miamis of this world, that they're on their way back. Notre Dame far more proximate than Miami, of course.
It's always great to see you. We should do this more often. Thanks,
Maybe
Matt.
We will.
Really
Thanks,
great
Paul.
to have you on. Matt Stinchcomb joining us. We are heading to a break. We'll figure out how to make sense out of all this in a minute with more of your phone calls right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Experience the game like never before with Sonos Arc, the premium smart soundbar for TV, music, and more. The precise and immersive sound of Dolby Atmos will make you feel like you are on the field. With Sonos, you can easily add more speakers to create your perfect sound system. Wirelessly connect the subwoofer for bolder bass, add a pair of rear speakers for even more intense surround sound, and place speakers in other rooms to enjoy listening all around your home, even outdoors. Learn more at Sonos.com. And Brian is up next in Birmingham. Hey, Brian.
How are you doing, Paul?
We are doing well. Thank you.
Hey, I wanted to give you 2 quick stories on Coach Bowden, if you would allow me to.
Of course.
The first one is, I'm in my early 60s, but so you know how I feel from an age standpoint. When I was in high school in Birmingham, or surrounding Birmingham, Florida State played Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I think I was a sophomore or a junior. It doesn't really matter. Played football at Trussville and got tickets to the game, went down there, and Alabama, Coach Bryant's team, beat Florida State. It was either 10-7 or 14-10. I mean, it was a
I vaguely remember. It was a terrible performance.
Well, true, but I'll never forget. I don't know if it came directly from Coach Bryant or if it came from the press that Coach Bryant said, "I will not play Coach Bowden again in Tuscaloosa," because Florida State was nothing at that point. And, of course, Coach Bowden built that team. The second thing was, I don't know if everybody understands, I'm sure most do, his connection to Birmingham. While Coach Bowden lived in most of his life in Tallahassee, he was from Birmingham. He went to Woodlawn High School. He was a major athlete there. And when he came back, and he did this up until last month or the last several months, he came back to Birmingham. He met with all of his Woodlawn High School friends. And you know where they went to play golf?
In fact, I do. Roebuck.
I bet you do. Roebuck Golf Course, which is, I mean, they could have gone and all played at Shoal Creek or Greystone or, the Robert Trent courses. No, they went back to where they were from. And that group, Dan Sims, which you probably have met, Deacon Jones, who passed away sadly last year, I think, they were just as close as they could be with Bobby Bowden. And Bobby, he loved Birmingham. He loved Woodlawn. And, he loved Roebuck. And he was such a special guy.
Yeah, Brian, somebody told me once that, and even after he had become really big, he stayed at the same motel out there. I can't remember the name of it, but he didn't go for fancy places. I mean, that's who he was.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I've heard so many stories from Deacon Jones and Dan Sims and that group who were so close to Coach Bowden, and he was special, and I appreciate you honoring him. And I went to Alabama, and, I'm an Alabama fan, but I've always been a Bobby Bowden fan.
Well, thank you very, very much for sharing those memories with us. Incredible stuff. John is up next in Dothan, Alabama. Hello, John.
Hey, my friend. How are you doing?
Man, it has been way too long. How are you?
I am doing wonderful, Paul. I've relocated back to my hometown of Carrollton, Alabama, which is about 35 miles west of Tuscaloosa.
Okay. Well,
I'm doing well, enjoying my retirement. Hey, listen, how's Miss Linda doing, your wife?
She is doing great. She really is.
Is she still working?
Yeah, somebody's got to support the family. You're not going to get by on this gig.
Oh, bless her heart. Paul, how you been doing, man?
I am doing great. I mean, John, really, everybody's got their stories, but I would say the last year and a half has been maybe the most interesting of my life. I never thought, we would ever experience what we all have gone through together and separately, but it's been really good.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, Paul. Hey, have you heard from Jim lately?
I see an occasional mention of him out there in the world. Yes, haven't spoken to him though in a while.
Oh, why he hadn't called in?
No, he's refrained from calling lately.
Well, good. I'm glad because I don't want to hear from him anymore.
Well, I thought you would say that. I remember some history.
You remember our
there.
battles. You remember our battles back in the day, don't you?
I do. I was thinking about you the other day. I don't know why. I think it was because it was in the middle of August. I was down in Dothan a long time ago, and can't remember. I think I met you down there at that. I think you were with your wife that night. I know a lot's happened since then, but I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right. That was you did a great job and had a great speech that night at Dothan. Absolutely. Let's see. But anyway, well, listen.
So tell me this before you go.
Okay.
I ask all my friends who have retired, and they all have different responses. So what is retirement like? Not that I'm curious.
It's less stressful, man.
Okay.
I just basically do what I want to do here. I've moved back to my hometown of Carrollton, Alabama.
Okay.
And, reuniting with friends, and I have family here, too, and it's very peaceful, and enjoy it, and go to Tuscaloosa occasionally. And mainly I do is listen to the Paul Feinbaum show every day.
I tell you what, if I could retire and be able to get a show of this quality, I probably would do it tomorrow. But since there's none available, and I don't want to watch a rerun. Hey, John, you take care of yourself. I'll be through there quite a bit this fall, so definitely hope to catch up with you. We are heading to a break. More to come. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. We've already had Scott Strickland on, the University of Florida athletic director. We had Stinchcomb and Connor O'Gara. More guests to come right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. And I bet it can be hard work. You know it's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
And we are back, and Eli is coming next. Sounds like a song from the 60s.
Hi there.
Oregon.
Eli is coming.
You got it. Great to have you on.
Oh, are you a Three Dog Night fan?
I was, yes. In my teens, I was a huge Three Dog Night fan. In fact, I even saw them in concert as I think a 14 or 15-year-old.
All right. Well, hide your girls.
Yeah, I mean, Three Dog Night had a run of some pretty big hits.
Yeah, now they play casinos. So
one is the loneliest number. It's the only. Yeah. Okay. Mama told me not to come join the wall.
Hey, I wanted to go.
We can go through the
Paul,
entire.
I wanted to go a little out of your wheelhouse.
Please.
What do you think about the Pac-12? Can they get back into the top four again in future history here?
Yes, possibly. I think Oregon has a shot. I'm a big Cristobal fan. I am not. I think under the current regime, I don't see USC ever being a major factor. I think they're okay.
I mean,
they should be good, but I fully expect them to screw it up somewhere.
Yeah, they got their scholarships back after being put in a penalty box for so long, but Arizona and Arizona State actually are good threats too to the whole system. Would you agree or disagree on that? Yeah,
I would, but I'm a little concerned about Arizona State's immediate future with all the rumors swirling around. The program I'm curious about, and I wonder if you could enlighten us, is what has happened to Stanford?
Well, they're just too smart.
I mean, David Shaw had that program on fire, and it is. I'm concerned whether they're ever coming back.
They're a threat, but honestly, I see them getting sucked down to the drain before they actually rise back up to the top.
No, they're in a very dangerous category.
I see some Arizona teams.
Yeah.
I also see USC recovering from their scholarship ban,
right,
rising back up. Elite facilities at U of O, and OSU is honestly a nice post-pandemic location for kids to go to school too. So Pac-12 has changed quite a bit.
Well, I like it. I don't like some of the gimmickry, but under a new commissioner, I think they need to do something. Well, I say they need to do something. What they need is the 12-team playoff to happen very soon. Hey, thanks, Eli. I appreciate the trip down memory lane. Let's talk to Rob in Texas. Hey, Rob, go right ahead.
Hey, buddy. I'm thankful to be on your show here, Paul. I was wondering about Texas. The SEC, they're joining up, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul. I love your show, dude.
Thank you.
Thank you for having. Let me know what you think about Texas this year, and maybe joining the SEC. Do you know anything about that?
I've not heard that. Is that a rumor, or has that been confirmed?
It's a rumor, but I'm wondering if maybe you've got some insight, being ESPN, SEC network.
Yeah, no,
I
mean, I subscribe to ESPN, the magazine, and ESPN Plus, but I have not heard that rumor. Hey, thanks for the call. Greg is up next in Florida. Hey, Greg, you're on the air. Greg, you there?
Yes, sir.
Well, good. You are live across America right now.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a first-time caller. I love watching your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was wanting to talk about what you thought about the name and likeness and the Bryce Young getting so much money and the players. What do you really think about it?
I don't have any problem with it. Now, as long as it's managed correctly and there's no nefarious activity going on, which I'm sure there is. But I think this is something that has been coming for a long time. I think the NCAA did a miserable job of preparing for it, and that's why it suddenly happened in a haphazard way. But there's a lot of confusion over it. This is not a payment from the university. This is something players are earning on their own, and whether there's disparity or not, I think we'll have to get through it, and I think it's gone fairly well so far.
And I've been in disputes with people saying, they deserve it, and I say, well, they're getting a free education, they're getting what they.
Well, Greg, you're right. They are getting a free education, but it's not like they went begging for it either. The schools came to them and offered it, and I think people fail to remember that.
True. Okay, and one more thing, Paul. What do you think about Oklahoma and Texas getting in the SEC?
Well, Greg, I am leading the parade. I think it's fantastic. It has been one of the most exciting stories that I have seen in the SEC in a long time. It has changed the landscape and the dynamics of where we are and where we're going. We don't know when, but I have not seen this league as excited about something in a very, very long time. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it very much. Steve is up next. Steve, go right ahead.
Yes, sir, Paul. Thank you for taking my call this afternoon.
Thank you.
I have one comment, and it seems to me that in the midst of the transfer protocol for the players and the name, image, and likeness, that the colleges and universities have gotten swept up in the same thing. Now they're trying to get transfer protocol into other leagues. What do you think about that?
Well, Steve, I think right now it's a free ticket anywhere, and whether it's a good ticket or not, I don't know. But the numbers don't really support where we thought the transfer portal would go. But right now, if you want to get in it, you can. But can you? It's like Hotel California. Once you get in there, can you get out?
Right. You never leave. Well, the other comment that I had, I called yesterday, and I didn't get. I was on hold, and I was trying to do something on the phone, and I got disconnected. But I was going to say something about Peyton Manning, but one of your callers did. But the only other comment I have is about Bobby Bowden, and this is a story I've heard, and that he challenged his players at halftime. He said, "Defense, now we have the lead, and if you don't give up any points, we'll win the game." And that was just the kind of the logic and wisdom that he had, that, you know, when he talked to his players.
I think that's exactly who he was. Steve, thank you. I don't think this story was mentioned yesterday, but I'll never forget being down at the Swamp. What year was it? 1994, I believe. Florida was number 1 in the country. Auburn was in top 5. I mean, it was a huge game, Saturday afternoon game down there. And Auburn had the game. Auburn won the game. I think it was on a Frank Sanders touchdown. And Spurrier blew it flat out. He had the ball, had the lead, and he was going for the knockout punch, and Auburn intercepted it. But the most interesting thing was when Spurrier found out afterwards that Terry Bowden, they were down, called his father, Bobby, at halftime, who was watching the game. And Bobby, I believe, gave him a play that led to, I'm not sure it led to the winning touchdown, but it definitely helped him. And the reaction of Coach Spurrier when he heard Bobby Bowden was mixed up in the middle of that game was priceless. I don't know if I have enough nerve to ask our coach about that the next time we get him, but I may. We'll take a break. More to come. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Math says when two great things come together, they make something even greater. For instance, 1 + 1 = 2. Simple, right? How about this? Trunk plus hot dog equals tailgate. Or turf plus dance floor equals end zone. And when you add friends plus football, it equals ESPN Fantasy Football. It's as simple as that. ESPN Fantasy Football with insights provided by IBM Watson. Sign up now at ESPN.com/fantasyfootball.
And we are back here, heading toward the end of the third hour on a Tuesday afternoon, and Rick is up next in Tennessee. Hey, Rick.
Hey, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for taking my call. We love your show. I got the whole family watching it.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for your knowledge of sports. I really love to listen and get your opinion. And they're pretty straight.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Yes, sir. My question is, I'm a very big Georgia fan, and we have the most 10 wins seasons of just about anybody, and we cannot get over the hump. And I was just wondering if you think there's a curse over Georgia.
Well, yes, there has to be, because I saw some article the other day that talked about all the near misses for Georgia, which everyone knows. And at some point, you have to get a little bit of luck, and they just don't seem to get that, because they had at least one or two teams under Mark Richt. Certainly, the 2012 Georgia team was, it was as good as Alabama, and
yes,
it didn't win because of in a game it probably should have. I won't waste any time on the 17 season. We all know what happened there. And there was one or two other school games that Mark Richt had that were capable early on of winning it all. And Alabama, has had some bad luck, like the kick six, but they've also had some good luck. And it just doesn't seem like Georgia ever gets that.
Right. Well, I think I
but
appreciate
maybe this year,
you, Paul. Well, we thought, Mark Richt now is, Kirby's got the same record and same wins and with the amount of time. And we're hoping, we always say this could be the year, right?
Well, as long as you feel confident that Georgia is in contention, and they are. So
yes.
I would be concerned if it didn't look like, last year, they had a chance, but they needed a bunch of things to go right, and obviously nothing went right until the end of the year. But I think Georgia could be the talk of college football by Labor Day night if they beat Clemson, which I've been really high on them since January when we saw the schedule come out.
Right.
So don't lose faith. And remember, how long did it take the Red Sox to finally win a World Series and the Cubs? So I'm not trying to compare Georgia to the Red Sox or the Cubs in baseball.
No, right.
But maybe I am.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. The Babe Ruth, the curse, you know what they say about that. But thanks anyway again. Look forward to talking to you again, Paul. Thanks for your show.
Hey, thank you very much. Dub is up next in Charlotte. Go right ahead, Dub.
Hey, Paul. How you doing, man?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Yep. Just wanted to call you and thank you again for taking my call. I talked to you, I think it was the Friday right before Mother's Day, and that was my first time to ever reach your show. And you were cordial enough to give me some time to recognize some important people. But now I'm calling you back because I think we actually have a mutual friend. I was down in Tybee Island, Georgia, just a couple of weeks ago with some family and friends, and sitting in one of the local facilities there eating some seafood, and I had on my Alabama golf shirt, and somebody walks by and says, "Roll Tide." Well, of course, customarily, I want to acknowledge them, and I raised my head up to look, and I said, "Roll Tide" back, and noticed this young lad that had on a Mississippi State T-shirt. And I said, "Well, aren't you cheering for the wrong team?" And at that point, I got recognized, or I got introduced to a young man named Parker Gerlecki.
Oh my goodness!
And I think you may know Parker.
I sure do.
At least by his account, he says you know him.
I do.
And I think he set you straight a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken.
He has done that. By the way, it's hard to remember all the people that have done that, but I do remember Parker very well. Well, that was great. That sounded like a really cool encounter.
It was, and I will say this. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I got to meet his family, his grandparents, his mom and dad, his brother and sister. I actually got to meet his uncle, and what an incredible family. And just for a second, Parker, is got this outstanding personality, but there are some people, his mom and dad, Chrissy and Ryan, his brother Chase, his sister Emily, his granddad and mom, which are just, they're a godsend for them, which is Des and Mary Ann, and then his Uncle Bruce. I got to meet them all. They took us in, my family in down. They have a house there. They've been there since 1941, and they just took us in and treated us so nice that I just wanted to recognize them, and I wanted to give Parker a big shout-out, say, "Parker, I've made it. I got back on Paul Feinbaum again, so now you get to call him and straighten him out a little bit more."
Well, Dub, thank you for sharing that, and all the best to Parker. Let's talk again soon. We're up against a break.